Alright, so now that we're all here, just like the answer to the tank class, we have especially for healing, we really truly have two people whose mains are healers and the rest are, amongst alts, other than now that we have a Shara and Drek here, that makes four, but there's a significant, you know, gear differential between the two main healers and you two guys. And so, and there's some things that we need to get ironed out, as well as now that we have Jelroy here and Cog here and Jala here, we'll be able to, you know, iron problems out with them. They'll be able to iron problems out with us, just like we did in the tank one last week. So first we'll start off with the most, in my opinion, the most common healing class and the most OP healing class, which would be the Scoundrel. And Skiff, I will let you start it. No questions, huh? Alright. Well, that was short, sweet, and to the point. So next we'll go to Sage Healing. We'll leave Commando Healing for last because Commando Healing, for two reasons. A, it's not as commonly used, and B, slightly more difficult up until the 2.6 when it comes out. Um, so Sage Healing, stat-wise, the nice thing about healing stat-wise across the board is the same. Surge is going to increase your big top heal. Crit, just like the Scoundrel, you want to have as minimal as possible. Take for granted that your relics, not your relics, your implants and your earpiece, the three items you cannot modify, so you'll be able to get the power that you want to stack through all the rest of your moddable items. Sage, to me, is one of those healing classes where, if done correctly with force management, you can pair it up with the Scoundrel or the Trooper perfectly fine, and you guys can dominate an op. But if done wrong, you're gonna way stress out a Commando healer, and you're gonna push your Scoundrel healer, who generally, because of his HOTS and management of his resources, seems to be a really good partner with the Sage, and just seems to be in a general more common. Um, But the most important thing about the Sage is rotation. Rotation, rotation, rotation. So, like Strike Force, you're on your healer who's a low level, and Ashara, you're on your healer who's a 55. And, both you guys gotta understand the most important thing about Sage healing is rotation. And there's one thing that they give you, which is like a false sense of comfort. So first, no matter what you do when you're healing, the most important thing you can do is force armor. That's like a free heal in its own. It's gonna, even though a big boss might crush through your armor real quick, you just saved your other healer time for healing. You can save yourself if you're getting attacked, especially if you bubble yourself, you get a hot, which is very minimal, but in the long run, everything kind of adds up for your favor. And then you're gonna open up your very first heal with Rejuvenate, which is obviously your one hot ability for on a friendly target, but that gives you Conveyance, which makes your next healing ability increase or almost crit. So you want to start that off with Healing Trance. Now, if you're a new 55, Healing Trance, your healing is gonna be a little bit slower due to the fact that you don't have the 2-piece set bonus. The Sage and the Scoundrel 2-piece set bonus is all that's required. The Trooper, you do need a 4-piece because you do actually gain, something more than additional energy or additional force. So you open it up with Rejuvenate and Healing Trance, and you're gonna get Resplendence. Now, Resplendence is that ability that I said that's very misleading, because if you use it right away, when a lot of sages just want to AoE heal all day long, you use Resplendence, it's going to significantly cut down the cast time of Salvation, but Resplendence is the way you regenerate force, and any sage who is struggling to heal will tell you the reason why they're struggling is they run out of force. Well, if they're running out of force, that means they're not implementing noble sacrifice into the rotation. Shara, you and I have briefly talked about this, but when you crit with Resplendence, or Healing Trance, I mean, and you get Resplendence, when you hit noble sacrifice, it's gonna Now, it's going to let you regenerate your force. You won't get the debuff. The debuff is as important as anything. If you look at it, your force regeneration is decreased by 25%. So, if you don't have your Resplendent stack up, you just Noble Sacrifice, you just took your health away, you just got yourself a little bit of force, and each time you get that debuff, the less force you're going to gain. So it makes more sense just to stick with your rotation, which is trying to get Healing Trance to crit, so you can Noble Sacrifice your force all the way back up. Now, where this comes in, where this is a big negative, is because obviously you're sacrificing health. Where it's a positive when you're running an op versus running a flashpoint. When you're running an op, you have that secondary healer. If they're not a sage, if they're a commando, or if they're a scoundrel, they're gonna, as you're trying to get your force back, they'll be able to, zap you right back up to generally 100%. If not, right after you hit your 3, because your Resplendence can go 3 times, therefore your Noble Sacrifice you can hit 3 times. You can do your Force Mend, which is your self-heal. And for the most part, at least the way my gear is my Force Mend can just about get me 100%, which is nice. My crit will range anywhere between 10 to 11,000 on myself, and that's generally about as much as I'm gonna need. And then I bubble myself, and that little hot, although it's only 300, is gonna get me enough to top myself off, where the other healer can worry about healing the rest of the group, or the main tank, or the off tank. The nice thing that we have is Force Potency, which has a chance to make your next 2 offensive attacks or heal auto crit. So, for instance, I'll target Ashara, I'll hit my Force Potency. This is the only time you really want to use Deliverance, which is your long heal, because if you're going to take the time to do it, you might as well make it worth it. Otherwise, so I just hit, otherwise when I do, I just wasted, almost 3 seconds for a 6k heal. If I use Benevolence, I just took, less than a second and a half for a 4k heal. So, you can get, when you add it all up, with that one ability, the Benevolence, you'll get more healing over a shorter period of time, or over the same period of time, than if you implement just Deliverance. And a lot of people like to they see their target getting hit hard, and so they'll instantly think, well, Deliverance can, go from 57 to 59, where the other one only goes 34 to 38. So you would think, okay, 57 is bigger, but it takes longer. And with the crit, my crit, I can still get 7k out of my quick heal. So out of the time it takes me to do my quick heal 2 times, I just healed for 10k, where I'll still get 10k, but it's going to take me twice as long. And sometimes in them heavy burn phases where your tanks aren't going to have their cooldowns up, twice as long is too long. Now, location of your, we get and so does the commando. The commando gets, when they do their little pushback, they get a nice little, like, funny little heal, and so do we with Force Wave, although it's directional in front of us where the commando is around them. That's fine to do sometimes. You gotta be really careful, especially when there's mobs that are CC'd and whatnot. Our true bread and butter is the fact that we have such a larger edge over AoE healing than the other 2. That's what makes us more useful.
What was it? No, but what?
So Salvation is good, but on your rotation, you can use Salvation when I like to use it with 1 stack of Resplendence. I'm not losing that much force regen when I need to do it. It's going to cut down my cast time by a hair, not by too much. It's not going to make it an instant cast. But with one stack of Resplendence, it cuts it down just a little bit, and location of your salvation is as important as casting it. Because if you cast it, but you cast it way in the back, and you have an op that consists of every DPS's melee plus 2 tanks, it's a lot better to drop it there and keep you and the off healer healed, or the main healer healed, just by your normal abilities. Same thing vice versa. If you have a lot of ranged healers or ranged DPS, I like to call out, get the range to stack up. I can drop that down, and then we can worry about healing up the tanks, or if we have a 1 or 2 melee DPS that way. And that's a lot of in PvP and in ops and in flashpoints. I see the sage classes. They burn a lot of salvation. They think salvation, they can just AoE heal through everything, and that's not really the case. So you got to be careful on that one. Us, like the scoundrel, we have mental alacrity, which increases our cast time, which is very good to use on top of force potency, because not only are you going to get your big heal, you're going to get your big heal faster, 20% faster, so you'll be able to get them back to back, especially if your tank is getting crushed, or you have a lot of people where you took a lot of raid-wide damage and a lot of people are getting close to death. You can boom boom hit. You can now be a useful healer, where the commando and the scoundrel, they tend to crit a lot more and hit a lot harder with their heals when they need to. The sages, we don't have that luxury, so we gotta use force potency to do it. I knew mine was gonna be a lot longer in skiff. So and most importantly for yourself to use the greatest ability in the game, Sage God mode. Sage God mode pretty much grants you immunity versus everything. So, and it's also an aggro dump as well. You also have an aggro dump, which is cool, Clouded Mind, which you need to get to know and get to use, because if you do pull aggro, you have an aggro dump. It's the same thing like DPS. You have one, so you need to use it. But nothing better than bubbling yourself. You got 10 seconds for the tank to pick it up, and then the other healer to either hot you up or get you a quick. Oh, I just got a random text message from my boss. Um, so it's your ultimate oh crap button, and so that's great to have. Then you also have your cleanse, which every healer needs to learn how to use their cleanse. You have your self heal, which we talked about, and your CC, and your interrupt. All those you need to be able to know when and how to use them. Any questions, comments, or concerns? And say if we have questions, now's the time. Because what's going to happen right after this is, you know, the new healers, we're going to throw you right into a gauntlet. So you have to, we're going to throw you into either an op or a hard mode to really put you to the test. And we're going to make sure that, you know, we go a little bit rougher on the healers, so they have to, you know, heal a little bit more.
We'll have Joel attack DPS.
There you go. You
Oh,
always
looks
have
like I am DPSing on my Sentinel.
you always have that you always have that X factor of, you know, not knowing what the people are gonna do, and even though you may have been through something 100 times, you know, if you're taking somebody new or something doesn't go quite right, you know, how are you gonna make it up? And I've noticed on my other healers, it's easier to make up the difference and bring the group back versus a Sage. A Sage, I like to think, is a good class to maintain the current group's HP, but you really need a commando or a scoundrel to get them back to top. I mean, you can maintain people where they are, but it's gonna be really difficult to top everybody off. Jell and I will share the, unless he doesn't want to, we will share the duties on the commando healing.
Yeah. Commander healing is not that bad as Creighton likes to say. I find it easy. Yeah.
I didn't say
Lots of
bad, I
easy.
said less commonly played.
Yeah. We said harder. I don't know, like, I haven't tried any of the other healing classes. I like the commandos. I leveled up the commando as a healing class from level freaking 1. Like, doing flashpoints from like 15 and whatever. And it's difficult at first, but then when you get used to it, it's more of like a... I find it easy to maintain your level of energy pretty much. Because all you're doing is like it heals over time, pretty much. Same thing as probably like a scoundrel. You have a couple big heals like Advanced Medical Probe and Medical Probe. For some odd reason, the Advanced Medical Probe crits higher and has a dot, like a heal over time afterwards, than your Medical Probe, which I find retarded. But the bonus of your Medical Probe is that it builds your Supercharge, which you want to get to 30. Supercharge is awesome. I use it as my, excuse the phrase, oh shit button, because it gives you an automatic 8 energy cells if you need to recharge real quick, and increases all damage and healing by 5% for 10 seconds. And it also gives you a cooldown reduced by 100% on your Advanced Medical Probe. This on the raid is really helpful. I use it. Okay, supercharged shells. Another bonus is your Koto Bomb creates a shield around everybody within the vicinity of it, and then you can throw a Advanced Medical Probe, which gives a heal over time to everybody, so you can advance maybe 4 targets before your 10-second timer runs out if you have enough clarity, and then you can fire off another Koto Bomb, which extends your shield time, which gives great like survivability. So it's kind of like helpful, like if you can, or you can kind of throw it in like another area if you miss some people or whatever. It's very flexible, and it doesn't cost as much. And then as soon as your 10 seconds is over, you can start building up your supercharge again to be able to regen your cells and la 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 la. Nobody's really said anything about the clarity. The clarity is very important. The higher clarity you have, your cells and recharge is going to regen faster, which means you can heal more without being able to blow your for me it's recharge cells, which recharges 50 energy cells over 3 seconds. You use it a lot less. It's a 2-minute cooldown, so you have to wait 2 minutes. If you're blowing your mana, well, power for healing over time, it's easier to recharge when you have a higher eclair. Power's great, crit's great, la 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 la. A clarity is very, very important. Do not overlook.
Alacrity is like one of those things where, um, in my opinion, although they put a change to it, I mean, I went from an alacrity rating of 0 to 900 when 2.0 came out, and I never noticed a difference. Now there is a global cooldown difference that is benefit from alacrity, and in combat, your regens do occur, but the idea originally of alacrity was it's supposed to cut down your cast time, and I've never noticed it between, and I don't know if you noticed it either, Skiff. Well, and then
Yeah,
hammer shot
everything else is
grants
the
them,
cast time.
hammer shot grant casts them uh, an alacrity buff, and sages have to heal on the stand too. Um, One thing that he didn't mention about the AoE, the AoE only hits 4 people, but the residue will hit everybody, and that residue is what's really important for anybody because that's going to increase the healing that they take. And that happens
Yeah,
regardless of
residue.
supercharged cells or not, which is it's a great ability.
Yeah, residue happens for 15 seconds.
And then top it off with 2.6 where you're going to be able to hammer shot yourself in the face and spread your medical probes around, which is what you normally would put on your tank. You're going to be looking pretty good, and I have a feeling a lot more commando healers are going to you know, be more active, or more people are going to try out commando healing because of it. And I don't think per se commando healing is broken. I mean, you get tech override, which makes your long cast into an instant cast. You have an instant cast heal, and then you also have hold the line, which makes you immune to knockbacks, which is hugely important.
Yeah, like if a big pull comes, you hit your reduced threat, and then you have a personal shield that's on you. And if you freaking cold the bomb, advanced medical probe yourself for the regen, and you're getting like all this regen, you can keep your and your trauma probe on the tank. Sorry, trauma probe something you calls charges. You can get skill points into it. Up to 13 points, it charges up to 900 to 1,000 heals when it goes off on your target if they're getting beaten down. And I never put it on myself.
There are some times, especially when I've ran in flashpoints, where sometimes it's not best to initially start your tank off with it, because what's going to happen is, like a guardian, he's going to leap in there and get hit, and boom, you're instantly going to pull. Um, I agree with y'all. There's not really much of a, point of really medical probing yourself. Now, in 2.6 there will be, because you can spread the love of your medical probe around. So then I can kind of see where that would come in handy a little bit, but, it's best to put on your main tank, and it's going to, you get 13 stack of it right now, 1k each. That's 13k free heals that are just going to start triggering while you can, spend your time maybe using a different ability, healing up somebody. Maybe you're doing a little bit of DPS, whatever else your role is going to be.
Yeah, because what I usually do, if a tank pulls and it's a big pull, they'll pull. Sometimes they'll just automatically aggro me because of this, and I'll de-threat, throw a shield on me, and cult the bomb the shit out of everybody. Because if the tank can't hold the aggro for everything, everything's going to go everywhere until they can get control. It's weird. I'll throw like an advanced medical probe on myself so I can regen hit points slowly while I'm standing in my goo. I like to call it. Dude. And yeah, and you'll be fine. You de-aggro, you won't have crap hitting. And a shield just to make sure anything's throwing like an AE after you. You're not gonna get hit that much. But it's very important to do it as soon as you start getting hit. You have to hit it like real quick, or else you're toast.
You also get reverse power cells, which causes your next offense ability, which is nice for the heal, to cast for free. So if you start running a little bit low and you don't quite have your supercharged cells up to get that 8 back, you can use that, and you won't cost any ammo. We said Tech Override gives you that instant heal, and sometimes, and that can come in your situation where your tank needs to be healed, but you need to move, but all your cooldowns are available. You hit your Tech Override, you hit your big heal followed by your insta heal, and depending on your crit, that could either only net you 6k healing if you don't crit, or that can net you 16k healing if you do crit. And we would like to, obviously as healers, crit every time we do, so we like to think 16k is where it would be. And and then as you're finally get to your destination, wherever it is you have to move, you can still use hammer shot. Hopefully your trauma probe is attached, and a successful healer is equal to, do you wipe in ops? Why do you wipe in ops? And if you notice people are wiping but yet you have full energy, or you have full ammo, or you have full force, you're not really doing your job as a healer, because if people are dying and you're sitting there just, hammer shotting away, or you're just sitting there doing the one that diagnostic scanning away, or you're just jerking off as a sage, you're not doing your job, you're not really doing anybody any use. Now, with that being said, if you have a parser and whatnot, you could heal for 9 million, but as long as you get through the boss fight, most people aren't gonna really care exactly what you do healing. They're only gonna care what you do healing if you wipe.
So let me just that's when you
Mox is something we're gonna get everybody into. It's a great tool for tanks because you'll be able to see, aggro. It's a great tool for DPS because you'll be able to see, you can either see it to see your aggro, your DPS. Tanks is also good to see who's getting hit often. Same thing with healers. It's great to see who's getting hit often, so you can adjust your tank's plan for guarding. You as a healer, you should never be the target of a guard, especially in an op. You're gonna have some people who, if you're in a decently geared op, you're gonna have some people who's gonna rip aggro off you. So you gotta be used to not being guarded. Don't get crazy when you aren't guarded. Don't freak out when mobs are attacking you, because that's gonna happen. Skiff and I like to dance and high five each other while we're getting attacked by mobs. It happens.
yeah, it's usually me and Ka getting guarded because we'll rip out the aggro from somebody, which is fun, which is what us DPS try to. No, I'm tanking for 5 seconds. Yeah. Oh shit.
The best way, in my opinion, the best way to practice healing without really, you might get trolled a little bit, but without really repercussion and without spending any money, go PvP. You're gonna have a lot of targets to heal. You're gonna be able to practice your healing rotation, and you can PvP at any level. If you do 55, just be ready for taking a licking, because people are gonna be in PvP gear and what have you. But if you're in good ops gear, yeah, you can dominate PvP as well. But it's the best way to learn how to heal multiple targets in a scenario in which is kind of chaotic. Um, it almost resembles a pug of an op. You know, there's no direction, there's no point of attack, just people doing just going crazy, and you're left to heal, and you're gonna get attacked as well, because you know they're gonna focus you. So how do you respond by doing that? What are you gonna do? And all that can transfer right into the op, you know. And that to me is a great way for me personally to sharpen up on any healing skills. Or I just let Skiff do more healing.
Just make sure you tip him afterwards. From all the times he died. And that's
Now, you know, tanks, you know, and there's some in vent right now. Tanks like to think they're the most important entity of an op. It's really the healers.
It's a DPS.
yeah.
You can tank, you can heal all day, but you're gonna reach an enrage timer and it's gonna die. You're gonna wipe.
That's right.
Four tanks, 4 healers. Let's do it.
And when in doubt, Sage Bubble. Surely it works for 10 seconds, but for those 10 seconds, you're beastly. You're the best tank you can get.
Shit, Joel has different.
Any true questions, comments, concerns before we wrap this up? I just got an emergency, so I have to bounce here in a little bit, but
Somebody needs a sipping.
not quite. I wish that was. Our $60,000 machine at work just broke, so I gotta go fix it.
Oh, that's.
I was gonna say, what? Someone hit your car again?
God, I wish. I'm running out of cars. So I'm generally on daily. Skiff is generally on daily. He has a few nights of the week where he's, you know, occupied in hard modes. You have Cog, who's always a good source of information. You have Jala, who's, you know, knowledgeable under the trooper class. So all of us will be able to help you. I know I have all 3 healers, and I've healed on all 3 of them. But I'm not quite nearly as, although it's easier in my opinion, I'm not nearly truly as comfortable, and nor do I know the language of the scoundrel. And I think everybody in the guild, if you're like main's a DPS or your main's a tank, you have a scoundrel healer. So we're not short on scoundrel healers, so we won't be short on people who will be able to help you if you decide to roll one. Just remember. Yep, go ahead. What he's saying is, what he's saying is his AoE heal, although it's different or when you compare it to the trooper, you can throw your AoE heal where you need it to be, and you might get maybe 2 people or 8 people is gonna get benefited from the goo. He can physically target, but it's only gonna really hit the 4 closest people. And that's where the Sage comes in handy.
Thing with the Commando's Colto Bomb is though that it's not a smart heal. It could heal 4 people that are already at full health when there's 6 people standing next to each other.
hit, so it can hit everybody except for the tank you're trying to heal, which you have to give extra love. You just have to watch the bubble above.
And the one thing I, neglected to say, which is, the most obvious thing about any sage in general, is the force pull. And if used, correctly, you can either, lower the threat of a DPS who, needs it to be lowered, or when people aren't paying attention to mechanical situations, you can pull them out of it, which also comes handy. But also, you can also cause harm by pulling them at incorrect moments. Maybe you just significantly lower DPS, or maybe you thought you were in a good location, you pulled, and that tile happens to fall, or you pull them into an exploding droid.
You motherfucker.
So I was lost, I was confused, I didn't know what I was doing. So, it's, if used right, you always want to think of force pull as yet another offensive ability. You have all these abilities that are useful, So, the game, I don't know how many they give you. They give you, we'll say, 50. They give you 50 abilities. There's a scenario each time that you're going to need to pull out an ability. Whether it's going to be, your stun, or maybe you have to do a little DPS, or you're going to have to do an actual interrupt, which isn't, for stun, or you need to do an interrupt because your interrupt doesn't work, so you need to use force wave. Alright, any other questions? Alright, so, that will be the end of this. Do remember, everybody, register to the website, get involved in ops. The more, especially healers, the more healers we have in ops, the more ops we can run, the more, people can participate in different roles, and other people who aren't able to get into runs will be able to get into runs, so the more people we have, naturally the better, and the more healers we have, obviously the better, so especially if they're mains. So I like to be able to get a main group, and I wouldn't want to say an alt group. I just want to have one group and another group. So
Another thing is, always ask for ops groups. I don't see a lot of people like vocalizing in guilds saying like, hey, anybody want to run ops? Something like that. Like, even if it's like one of the first